Have you ever watched someone older than you move with more ease, more confidence, and more freedom than you do right now? Have you ever caught yourself avoiding certain movements, not because of pain, but because somewhere deep down you weren't sure your body could handle it? Have you ever wondered why aging seems to hit harder here than it does in other parts of the world? If you answered yes to even one of those questions, you are not alone. And you are in exactly the right place. Before we go any further, if no one has told you yet that staying mobile, strong, and independent after 50 is absolutely possible, this channel was made for you. Hit subscribe to Senior Guide by Paul right now so you never miss a video that could genuinely change the way you move through life. Hi, my name is Dr. Paul Farmer, and before we dive in, please speak with your own doctor before making any changes to your movement routine, especially if you are managing an existing condition. Now, I want to take you somewhere for a moment. Walk through a quiet neighborhood in Japan and you will see something that simply does not match what most of us have been told about getting older. An 85-year-old climbing stairs without gripping the railing. A 93-year-old walking to the market with her spine tall and her steps steady. A 100-year-old who has never touched a walker in her life. Then look at the numbers here at home, where nearly half of adults over 75 depend on mobility aids just to move around their own homes. The difference is not genetics. It is not geography. It is habits. Small, daily, deeply embedded habits that keep the joints young, the muscles responsive, and the balance sharp without a single gym membership. And many of those habits have quietly disappeared from the way most Americans live today. What I'm going to share with you today are 5 daily movements hidden inside Japanese culture, backed by science, and designed not as workouts, but as a way of life. These are not stretches you add to your morning. They are not routines you force yourself to follow. They are rituals woven so naturally into daily living that most Japanese elders do not even think of them as movement. They just live, and that living keeps them free. Let me tell you about Margaret. She came to see me at 71, frustrated and a little frightened. She told me she had started avoiding her grandchildren's floor-level play area because she was not confident she could get back up if she sat down. She was healthy. She was active. But somewhere in the last decade, without noticing, she had lost the very movements that keep a body resilient. Within 8 weeks of introducing just 2 of these habits, she was on the floor building block towers with her 5-year-old granddaughter. That is not a therapy success story. That is a life story, and it is available to you too. The first habit is what the Japanese have practiced every single morning since 1928. It is called radio taiso, and it is not exercise. It is a neurological reset. Most of us wake up stiff, pour a coffee, sit down, and wait to feel better. But that stiffness does not simply fade on its own. It compounds. Every morning you skip meaningful movement, your nervous system stays sluggish, your joint fluid stays thick, and your muscles grow a little more hesitant about doing their job. Over years, that hesitation becomes limitation. Radio Taiso changes that by gently reactivating every major joint, stabilizer muscle, and balance circuit in the brain within 15 minutes of waking. Think of it as rebooting your body so everything runs the way it was designed to. Research from Tokyo Metropolitan University found that people who practice daily morning joint movement report 37% less stiffness throughout the day, even well into their 80s and 90s. You do not need to follow a Japanese broadcast or join a park group at dawn. A simplified version done in your living room in your pajamas will shift your body from stiff and foggy to fluid and alert in under 5 minutes. Movement that tells your nervous system it is time to live today, not just survive it. The second habit is one that most Western doctors overlook entirely, and it is hiding in plain sight. It is the simple act of getting up from the floor. In Japan, low tables, floor cushions, futons, and tea ceremony seating mean that elders transition from the floor to standing dozens of times every single day, not as exercise, but simply as life. And that matters more than almost any workout you could design. When you rise from the floor, your brain fires a deep neurological sequence through your glutes, quadriceps, core, hip flexors, and ankle stabilizers in a specific order that no exercise machine can replicate. It trains the exact fall recovery reflex that keeps you safe when life becomes unpredictable. A 2012 study out of Brazil found that people who could rise from the floor without using their hands had an 83% lower mortality rate over 6 years. Not because the movement itself is magical, but because it reflects the brain's living, active control over the body. In America, we have engineered every floor-level challenge out of our lives. Elevated beds, high chairs, raised toilets. We built comfort, and in doing so, we quietly traded away resilience. Start simple. Sit on the floor for 5 minutes today. Practice rising with as little hand support as possible. You are not just training a muscle. You are reminding your body what it is still capable of. The third habit is one that changes the way you think about every single step you take. We have been told for decades to simply walk more. But research from Stanford shows that the typical American heel-strike walking pattern generates 2 to 3 times your body weight in impact force with every single step. Multiply that across 8,000 steps a day, and you begin to understand why so many knees, hips, and lower backs quietly deteriorate over time. Japanese elders walk differently. Their steps are shorter and softer. Their feet land with the midfoot rather than driving the heel into the ground. Their posture stays tall, their core gently engaged. This is not a style preference. It is a biomechanical system refined over centuries of walking in wooden sandals that made heavy heel striking physically impossible. Studies show this style of walking reduces joint impact by 32% and activates 47% more stabilizer muscles per step. That is not just protection. That is full body balance insurance built into the most ordinary thing you do every day. The next time you walk, notice where your foot meets the ground first. Softer, shorter, more intentional. Your joints will feel the difference within days. The fourth habit is about the one joint that quietly determines your independence more than any other: the hip. You can lose 40% of your hip mobility and barely notice until the morning you cannot tie your shoes without leaning on something. Or you realize you have stopped squatting, stopped reaching low, stopped trusting your body in open space. Western life locks the hip at 90 degrees nearly all day long, sitting at breakfast, driving, watching television. Repeat that pattern for 30 years and the body reshapes itself around that limitation. In Japan, the home itself demands more. Floor sitting opens the hips in external rotation. Kneeling on heels in the seiza position promotes deep knee and ankle flexibility. Rising from a futon twice a day requires a deep hip hinge that most Americans never perform. These are not exercises. They are environmental demands that preserve the full range of motion the hip was designed for. A study from the Japanese Orthopedic Association found that elders who retained full hip mobility had an 89% lower chance of needing a walking aid after age 80. Not because they stretched, because their homes kept asking more of their bodies. You can bring that same principle into your life today. Sit on the floor for a few minutes, take your shoes off at the door, and make it a deliberate transition. Give your hips a reason to stay capable. The fifth habit may surprise you because it is not a movement at all. It is the way Japanese homes are designed. Step into a traditional Japanese home and you are greeted by the genkan, a raised entry threshold that requires you to step up, balance briefly on one foot, reach for your shoes, twist slightly, and then step down again. Every single time you enter or leave, it sounds trivially small. Neurologically, it is extraordinary. That sequence is a full proprioceptive drill, a balance challenge that keeps the brain's reflex system sharp and responsive. Modern Western life, by contrast, is engineered for predictability. Flat floors, even lighting, handrails everywhere. It feels safe, but it quietly removes every challenge the brain needs to maintain its balance reflexes. Research from Kyoto University found that elders who regularly navigated varied terrain had a 43% better balance recovery reflex when they stumbled, compared to those who lived in highly uniform environments. Balance is not a fixed ability that fades with age. It is a neurological reflex that fades with disuse. Stand on one leg while you brush your teeth tonight. Walk across a patch of grass. Close your eyes for 10 seconds while standing at the kitchen sink. These micro-challenges are not exercises. They are conversations with your nervous system that keep it sharp. Now, you do not need to adopt all 5 of these habits at once. Think about where your body is telling you it needs attention most. If you wake up stiff and slow, start with the morning movement ritual. If the idea of getting off the floor makes you uncertain, spend 2 weeks practicing floor transitions. If your knees ache when you walk, begin paying attention to how your foot meets the ground. If your lower back or knees are under constant strain, your hips are likely where the conversation needs to start. And if your balance feels less certain than it once did, begin introducing small, safe environmental challenges into your daily routine. Pick one, just one. Give it 14 days of honest consistency, and pay attention to what shifts, not just in your body, but in the quiet confidence you carry when you move through a room, climb a step, or reach for something without thinking twice. You are not slowing down. You are waking up to what your body has always needed. The Japanese do not age more gracefully because of perfect genes or miracle diets. They age with freedom because they never stopped asking their bodies to move with intention. They never stopped rising from the floor. They never stopped walking with awareness. They never stopped letting their environment teach them balance. And they never accepted that stiffness, limitation, and dependency were simply the price of growing older. Now you know what they know. And you can reclaim what so many have quietly given away without realizing it. Your body is still listening. Movement is still the language it understands best. And it is not too late to have the kind of conversation that changes everything. If this video helped you today, please give it a like and subscribe to Senior Guide by Paul for more simple, honest, and practical guidance made specifically for people who still have a great deal of living left to do.